Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Amy Acton looks to keep Ohio red. After the COVID mess, Amy Acton now has a new goal because at the moment she is determined to stay on the Republican ticket for governor after Dave Yost bowed out. Now, if she stays, of course, she may have to face off against some seasoned Democrats like Senator Sherrod Brown and maybe former U.S. Rep. Tim Ryan. Now, Acton, who is from Youngstown, was mentioned in the report along with Vivek Ramaswamy, who is the clear frontrunner in the Republican primary for governor. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2, parks in the headlines. There's some chatter on how budget cuts could soon trickle into the park system, which with even threats with the enclosures in the report and some circulation. Now, the metro parks in Trumbull County is mentioned in the report due to budget cuts. Now, talks about potential funding cuts like canceling garbage pickup and electricity at certain locations have been trending, along with staff reduction talks also, thus getting the story into the top 8. That's why story number 2 made it. Story number 3, more spending on Youngstown upgrades. The Vindicator has a staff report published June 5th in what appears to be an ongoing $13 million transformation of a downtown Youngstown landmark from a bank building to a multi-use facility, according to the article. Now, the funds for the upgrades have been secured by Lake to River Economic Development. Now, the article is filled with information and important goals, but what got the story in is the continued amount of money that has been poured into Youngstown, period, for upgrades, especially the downtown area. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4, local prisons are crowded and it costs taxpayer a lot of money, if you did not know that. Dan Pompley has a report published May 30th explaining how Mahoning County is seeking $1.1 million for a program that allows felons to stay in county jails to reduce state prison crowding. Now, the number of people crowding local and national prisons continue to be a top concern, thus getting the story into the top 8. If you did not know, the U.S. spends at least $182 billion annually on mass incarceration. So story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5, Austintown eyes police levy again. Dan Pompley has a report published June 3rd informing the public about how Austintown will retry a police levy that was shot down last November. The levy would have generated about $2.6 million for the police department. Police Chief Valerie Delamont has gone on the record explaining how, despite the township's best efforts, the department is on the verge of becoming financially unstable, thus getting the story into the top 8. Now, the report goes on as far as to give the reader an understanding of how costly it is to run a police force without a tax levy. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, Trumbull County is still talking about the budget. Chris McBride has a report published May 30th, homing in on the budget talks taking place in Trumbull County. Now, according to the report, the talk is all about slashing costs and conserving to save money. Now, the article is filled with spending numbers and succeeds at informing the reader about what is unfolding to keep the Trumbull County budget intact. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines in developing news stories that I made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do not get up this early, I do upload the show to the website on Mondays. You can check out the show if you want to stay up to date on what is actually taking place around you locally. You want to stay informed, I upload the show on Mondays to the website. Story number 7, the anti-property tax movement is gaining steam. A local anti-tax property movement was staying in top headlines. Citizens for Property Tax Reform and the Committee to Eliminate Property Taxes in Ohio has been pretty consistent in local headlines. The motivation, according to Google AI, is because a number of residents who can no longer afford their tax bills are being forced to leave their homes. Now, David Scolding has a report published May 30th explaining how some Ohio seniors are seeking cuts up to 50%. Now, the bill has gained support from State Senator Al Catrona of Canfield, who says that it can be done, that this bill can be done. Now, the article is definitely worth a read because it provides the numbers needed to comprehend what is taking place in the movement. Folks, let's get the story into the top 8. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Folks, if you do want to show the show some support, I have to inform you that you can stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, and buy something from the store. Or you can stop on the website and buy something off the website that's on the screen. If you want to show some support, every little bit counts here at Method 8. Let's get to this top story. Youngstown sees credit rating progress. David Scolding has a report published June 5th explaining how Youngstown has received a major upgrade in its credit rating from Moody's ratings. Now, the report goes on to explain how this helped reduce interest rates when the city borrowed money. Now, that's word for word in the report. The city now has an A2 rating, giving the city a strong ability to repay its debts. Now, City Finance Director Kel Miasek credits the way the city has taken action to manage its finances as the reason. Now, the city has to focus on increasing its population to recover from years of decline and also save its failing education system. Mayor Jamel Tito Brown was also mentioned in the report praising the credit rating progress. Now, thus getting the story to the top 8. That's why story made to the top this week. Well, folks, there are top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
In the reflection of love, is it possible for one to see hate? Is it possible for one to see two worlds? Is hate the opposite of love?
I will do whatever it takes to fall in love.
You're about to experience something real magical. Magic.
At this moment now, you have a choice that I no longer have.
All I've been thinking about is rain.
That's impossible.
Well, hurry it up. You know rush hour comes in the afternoon. Alana, I do worry about you.
Haven't you noticed how dark it is around here lately?
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. After looking at so many stories and seeing, the fact that this is, the Gay Pride Month and all that other stuff, and it made me wonder when I was a kid. You had shows on like the Crosbys and even the Andy Griffith Show, and things were so much simple back then, and I don't think anybody would have predicted the age that we have lived in now, where there's just so many different tribes and groups. You have so many different religious denominations. It's amazing. Now you see people out in rainbow flags, and it's interesting, how a time that we live in. Do you remember, if anybody remembers back in the day, they used to have simple shows on TV, like Bonanza or cowboy and Indian shows. On Andy Griffith's show, it was a simple show. The kid would jaywalk, and Andy would take him down to the station, and Junior, you can't jaywalk on the street. Bill Crosby, Theo or somebody on the show would upset Bill, and the Jello pudding pops we have to eat together as a family. Now you have shows about people running through walls, sci-fi episodes, police chases. I don't think there was too many police chases on the Andy Griffith Show. I mean, it's always been the Wild Wild West, but it's gotten wilder. I mean, police are chasing people through neighborhoods. They got a videotape getting busted in the mouth or getting hit by a car, shot, killed. Folks, we are in a different time frame, and nobody knows what really is right or what is really wrong anymore. Now, when I do something wrong, what I'll do is I'll say, if he doing it, then it's okay for me to do it. Somebody be like, Brian, that is probably the nastiest thing you could do, and anybody can tell you that was nasty. I'm like, well, P. Diddy did it. He's in court. They said he did it. R. Kelly did it. They're proven guilty. I'd be like, well, they'd be like, okay, well, that's not so bad. A reverend could cheat on his wife, still be preaching. He'll get up there and King David did it. It's okay. Yeah, it's the time we live in. It's all right. It's all right. But if the judge do it, ooh-wee, let's burn down the courthouse, folks. Whew, we are living in some different times. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number 1. Drilling in Alaska. The Alaska Beacon reports on how Trump officials visited Alaska and what appears to be a plan to remove some restrictions on Arctic drilling. The plan is to lift environmental protections on roughly half of the National Petroleum Reserve on Alaska's North Slope, which will reopen the area to possible oil and gas drilling, as stated in the report, which would reverse Biden's plans. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 1 made in this week. Story number 2, steel makers in top headlines. Bloomberg has a report explaining how Trump has signed an order doubling U.S. steel aluminum tariffs to 50% from 25%, with the goal to boost U.S. import taxes to help domestic manufacturers. The U.S. Steel has been creeping in and out of the headlines, but after Trump's plan was announced, such stories shot back into top headlines. That's story number 2 made in this week. Story number 3, an automaker shuts down 145 stores. A report in USA Today explains how Monroe Inc. will shutter 145 stores. Probably not Monroe the muffler maker, but Monroe Inc. They're going to shutter 145 stores across the nation after a drop in sales by $5.2 million. Now, the entire report homes in on a number of businesses that just a number of businesses that were just not prepared for the eye-popping market shifts caused by tariffs and other trade factors that probably sent costs soaring. For this story is still developing because a lot of businesses in America just were not prepared for these shifts. That's why story number 3 made it in the story. Story number 4, a medical story that can't go ignored. NBC News has a headline explaining how a man couldn't afford his inhaler when prices soared without warning, and he later died. The report was published June 2nd. Now, the article says that the price of his inhaler went from $70 to more than $500. Now, the story highlights a number of serious issues taking place in the medical drug market, thus getting story number 4 into the top 8. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines, developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4, so don't you worry. I'll be right back. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. Don't go anywhere.
We are way out of our league on this one. We are not supposed to be in this deep. We're into some kind of science fiction stuff here. The Field Angels is an investigative unit for youth.
The last thing I heard him talk about was a nucleus or something.
The nucleus is the biggest conspiracy in the field of kidnapping.
Is it real?
7 years ago, you wanted to be a superhero, and you wanted little kids to be your superhero project.
Kid, get down on the ground now. What are you doing? Put your hands up. Hands up. Get down.
I thought I told you the kid was dead.
When was the last time you had a patient?
I'm fine. Whoever is controlling this nucleus has found a way to move matter with photon particles.
You mean like a spark?
You apply it to the light, the photon particles, it attracts.
If anything happens to one of these girls, surely they will shut us down.
We lose it right now, big.
You have 24 hours to get back here with that other field angel, or don't bother, because nobody here will have a job.
I have practiced science my entire adult life, Mr. Daniels. That statement you just made makes you sound like an idiot.
What treatment?
Somebody want to tell me what's going on?
You know what I hate most of all? An undisciplined child.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Another thing we're talking about odd things and how times have changed. And another thing that is odd is the amount of people, when the drug epidemic started taking place, I don't think they would have thought of the age that we be living and the fact that there are a lot of people who are using drugs, who have alcohol problems, and now we live in a day and age where they just don't even care anymore. They don't want to admit they have a problem. And a lot of people are smoking weed. I mean, this would have never been thought that we live in a day where it was now legal for some of this stuff to be taking place. I mean, you could walk by a clinic, a relief clinic, and you will literally see a line outside. Now, things have changed, folks. I mean, you have to understand what I'm saying. A long time ago, probably in the 80s, it was not unusual that you'd see a church service packed, cars everywhere out in the parking lot. Now you don't see that, but you see weed clinics. This may be the new Jesus for some people. Weed is the answer to them. I mean, they are going through amazing hurdles just to be able to open up clinics and make money. Folks, times have changed. They have sophisticated network weed gurus everywhere, stationed in almost every community, underground operations. Folks, things have changed. I mean, this is like you could be standing outside and be thinking at a higher level, and you could be knocked back down to earth after getting in a car accident with somebody who was either high, drunk, intoxicated, all across the board. It's the time we live in, folks. Things have changed. Your own mother could be smoking the peace pipe. And you could be sitting there battling every day trying to convince her of a better way. And she will think that you are crazy because you don't do what everybody else is doing. Whew. Folks, we're living in some strange times. But I believe in something greater. And I believe that I've always been optimistic, folks. So let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to these top four top stories. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number 5. Stranger times. Story number 5, assessing the Trump effect, especially at the border. Now, some will say these strange times led to Trump's re-election. And that's what got him re-elected, because he doesn't seem to be afraid to lash out on these groups. But like I said, we're living in a different time frame. These are not only are weed addicts, but they're also, there's a lot of educated addicts too. Story number 5. USA Today has an opinion piece that shifts our thinking when it comes to the MAGA movement. Now, the piece's headline says that manufacturing is down, food is expensive, and concludes by stating that ICE is deporting mothers, not just immigrants, but immigrants who are mothers. Now, the piece looks at the MAGA movement from a different angle and really highlights some interesting talking points outside of the normal sympathetic headlines that usually draw us in a certain day and age. Now, this particular report states that a promise to make America great again has seemingly also made America worse in some ways. And even though that the border has seen a decrease in activity, humanitarian aid problems and humanitarian problems are increasing. Now, this opinion piece could spark others to voice their opinion or their own opinions on whether the MAGA movement has been good for America or bad. Let's get the story into the top 8. That's why story number 5 made it. Story number 6, the insurance question. John Wilkerson has a report in Stat published June 4th focusing on how 10.9 million people would lose their health insurance under Trump's tax cut bill, according to CBO. Now, the report goes on to explain how the House Republican tax bill would lead to 11 million people losing insurance. If this takes place, this could shift the pendulum into the Democrats' direction, but the article clarifies the Republicans' stance by stating that the bill only takes insurance from those without jobs who are able to work. Now, the bill would save the government $664 million with drug reforms, and the bill would boost payments to doctors by $1.9 billion in a decade span, folks. This story is still developing. This was story number 6, also made it to the top 2 this week. Big. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Folks, if you do not get up this early, I do upload the show to the website on the screen on Mondays. So if you want to get up to date and you don't get up this early, you can check out the show on the website on Mondays. Story number 7, doctor shortage. Stat has a headline explaining how America is running out of doctors. The report, written by Tom Price, informs readers on what is taking place. The article cites Trump's pause on the student visa program as a factor. The report emphasizes how the U.S. can't afford to lose these doctors that were in the visa program or any more because the country is running out of physicians. Now, by 2027, the country could be short 124,000 physicians, thus getting this story into the top 8 and a new goal for new students looking for a career. The doctor's field is wide open. Big. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that I made in this week. Extra, read all about it. Stay informed at no cost. All you have to do is tune in. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio and see my smiling face. Stop at the store, buy something in the store. Story number 8, cuts, and more cuts in the news. In a push to cut waste and spending, a range of welfare programs, including food stamps, Medicaid, and rental assistance, are all tied into the mix. A report in the Washington Post published June 3rd lays out the entire process unfolding to save the government money. Folks, this story is still developing because over time, they're saying that it could save, but a lot of people could be pushed off the wagon to try to run or walk. That's why story number 8 made it this week at the top. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you get something out of today's program. I always get something out doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, journalists, and people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your news story just to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want the show to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order to sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio and see my smiling face. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week, Lord willing, looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.